Hello my dear friends and welcome to my channel. My name is Barbara and today we're going to be looking at Saturn in the 7th house. So this video is for you if you do have this placement. If you're a cross watcher, welcome as well. Definitely check out my other Saturn video where I talk about the transits, the karma, your Saturn return, and what all of these things mean. I will put that in the description box below. So let's go ahead and get started. First, we're going to look at what Saturn means. Then we're going to look at what the 7th house means. And then we're going to put it all together. So Saturn is the planet of karma. It's going to be the planet of rules, regulations, restrictions. It's going to be the area in life where you might feel restricted in. It could also be the area in life where you don't develop that particular area until later on. Because basically the way Saturn works is, because it is ruled by Capricorn, you go through trials and tribulations in this area of your life until you finally learn the lesson. You're basically meant to master this area. That's how I see it. And you're always going to have an unconscious or a secret desire to perfect that area. There's always going to be some sort of focus on it for you. And then later on in life, okay, after you go through a lot of these trials and tribulations, you become an expert. Maybe all your friends are going to come to you and ask you. For you guys in particular, 7th house is going to be relationship advice and relationships. So the 7th house deals with all types of relationships. It can be romantic relationships, friendships, business partnerships, just groups of people in general, but basically anytime you're interacting on an interpersonal level. Now, what do relationships show us the most? They show us our shadow side. That's usually what tends to happen. Now, what's interesting is for those of you who do have Saturn in the 7th house, it's going to be conjuncting your descendant. So always check and see what sign you have in your descendant, because most of the time you're going to be attracting these types of people to you and they're going to be mirroring back your shadow traits. So a huge lesson here is to integrate your own personal shadows when you have Saturn in the 7th house, because these people are constantly going to be showing you this, okay? That's what tends to happen. Definitely check out my Descendant series as well. If you guys are interested, I do have a playlist where I go through each of the Descendant signs. So whatever sign you have in that 7th house, it's going to tell you a lot about yourself, okay? It's going to tell you about the people you attract and your shadow side, because that's usually what our relationships are showing us. So once you do master this area and you become an expert in it, you've integrated these lessons, you're probably going to then attract the divine version, okay, of that person that you are seeking. Because the thing is, when you have Saturn in the 7th, you're always unconsciously or subconsciously or maybe even consciously going to be seeking the one, okay? That's the whole thing here. You're always seeking a relationship. A lot of the time, people who do have this placement tend to get into long-term relationships when they are young. That is something that tends to happen because, again, you're seeking that security, you're seeking that commitment. But what's interesting is through relationships, I actually learned this from somebody, the person that you share the bed with is the person that you have the most karma to clear with. So whatever you do manifest into your life, you guys have a lot of karma that you're clearing between each other. And then a lot of the time what tends to happen, I mean, I don't want to speak this into existence for you guys, take it as it resonates, but most of the time if you did get into a serious long-term relationship when you were younger, around your Saturn return, you're going to go through some sort of breakup when you do have Saturn in the 7th house. Because usually what tends to happen is you're basically going to be forced to look at relationships differently. There could be some sort of change in general, because the way that I personally see Saturn return is you officially becoming an adult. One of the best things that I heard from another person was that adolescence should actually be extended into the 20s. And I totally understand that, because first of all, we are living way longer than we used to when they originally said that adolescents were just the teens. And secondly, your prefrontal cortex doesn't even develop until around the age of 25, 26. Okay, so you're not even going to be really seeing things clearly, and you really do go through a huge change when you go through your Saturn return. So that's usually what tends to happen. You become an adult. You might be seeking different things in a relationship. Maybe if you were in a longer term relationship from a younger age, it was more childlike in that sense, where it was like maybe you guys were high school sweethearts and it was like you guys had adventures and you went on all these sorts of things, and it's like now you're going through your Saturn return and you're basically being asked to become an adult. You're going to be taking on more responsibilities. You're going to be changing. And now you're really going to be looking at things differently. Maybe now you're going to be looking to see, you know, is this partner that I'm with aligning with my goals in life? Because that's the whole thing with Saturn return, the way that I see it at least. It puts you on your path that you're meant to be on in life in general, if you're not resistant to the lessons. So the thing is here with Saturn, the way that I see it is that if you're not resistant to the lessons, a lot of the time you will clear these lessons up by your first Saturn return. If you don't, it continues. Okay, that's the whole thing, because there's a karma that you need to learn. There could be a pattern that you need to learn. The thing is though, the frequency of the planet currently is higher. Okay, so things are changing. Because of this, people are more open, okay, way more open than they used to be back in the day to healing, lessons, karma, all these things. So because they're more open to it, they basically learn their lessons sooner. It's happening faster, okay? It's more intense probably, but it happens faster. You learn the lesson and then you move on. Unfortunately, if you don't, you go through your transits again until you learn those lessons. And a lot of the time, like I mentioned, either you go through a breakup or a divorce if you got married young, because this particular placement, Saturn in the 7th house, a lot of the time these people, because they are looking for this intense type of relationship, okay, where it's like committed, where it's serious, where it's traditional, not always, but sometimes you're going to have a Cancer rising, which again is going to put your descendant into the sign of Capricorn. And when you have Capricorn in there, okay, where there's a Saturn energy, you really are serious. You are looking for a serious relationship. You're someone who takes relationships seriously. You're probably not going to be someone who's able to just date for fun. You're always going to be dating people and looking toward, you know, how can we build a future together? It's that traditional energy, which is really what's happening here. And it's kind of like, because you are serious, if you find someone that you match with when you're younger, you probably jump into marriage very quickly. Even if you don't, it could be common law. Maybe you're living with your partner. However this might manifest, but it is a serious partnership. So this is why around the Saturn return, when you start changing and now your goals start changing, maybe your priorities start changing, maybe the things you are building start changing, well, your view on relationships is going to change as well, because it's kind of like maybe now you're looking for someone that you can build with in this direction that you're going. That's the whole thing here. What I will tell you guys, because you guys do take relationships very seriously and you probably will take it to heart if you guys go through a breakup, or breakups are really serious for you and it's like really hard for you guys to move on, because it's like, it's that unit energy when you have the 7th house, okay? It's kind of like you feel incomplete if you're not in a unit with another person. So what I will tell you guys, the way that I see relationships is they are vehicles that get us to the next level, okay? Whether it's friendships, whether it's romantic relationships, whether it's business partnerships. So it's kind of like when you grow, you might outgrow the person, and that's okay, because again, you're going to meet someone who is going to be more in alignment with what it is that you guys are seeking and what it is that you guys are looking for. It's important to keep this in mind. And that's the thing, we're always growing, we're always changing, we're always evolving, especially now with these super high frequencies. Everything's happening way faster. Like people's lessons are like hitting them in the face. So this is going to be the area for you guys that you guys do have a restriction. You guys have this huge focus. You guys have this huge desire. And it's kind of like some of you might feel like, oh, well, why can't I get relationships right? Or why can't I meet that person? Or why can't I meet the one? This is the whole thing here. And it's kind of like you take it very seriously. That's that Saturn energy. You take it very seriously. And it's like you guys learn these lessons. If you guys aren't resistant to the lessons, if you guys do the inner work, if you guys do the shadow work, if you guys see maybe what the patterns are in your dynamics, what these people are teaching you, look at whatever sign you have in there, okay? Whatever sign you have in there is going to give you a huge indication as to what types of people you might be attracting. Because again, we're looking at the descendant. It's conjuncting your descendant and it's opposing your ascendant, okay? When you have that 7th house. So it's like, again, a huge part of your identity, your core person is this unit, okay? You guys kind of feel like you can't function if you're not in a unit with a person. This is why you're going to see people who have Saturn in the 7th house jump from one long-term relationship into another long-term relationship. But again, somewhere in there is kind of like, if you create too much of your identity around relationships, then it's kind of like, who are you when the relationship isn't there, you know? So just something to maybe think about, something to question yourselves. I mean, I don't have the answer to that, but that's really what it is when you have Saturn in the 7th house. You're really going to take this area very, very seriously. And I will tell you guys, you will master it. You will get that thing that you guys are seeking. It's just Saturn drags it out, okay? It prolongs it. You guys might jump into something before you're ready, but it's okay, because it's like, again, you know, everything's a lesson and a blessing at the end of the day, even if you guys do move on to the next person or the next person or the next person. Another thing, maybe also sometimes when you have Saturn in the 7th, maybe you're not as aware how important a relationship is to you. So again, bringing this into your awareness, when we're aware of it, it just makes it easier for us, you know, to be like, oh, that's what I'm looking for. That's what I need. I'm struggling in this area, because maybe you guys are, you know, doing casual dating and that's not working out for you because you guys actually want something serious. So this is the whole thing when you have Saturn in the 7th house. Same thing with friendships. You guys take friendships seriously, all interpersonal relationships. This particular area is going to have friendships for a long period of time. But same thing when you go through your Saturn return, you know, maybe your childhood friend and you just don't get along anymore. You guys are on different paths now. You're completely different people, you know, because we all change, grow, and evolve. And people really aren't meant to be with us forever. The thing is, you always meet people who are meant to be on your path. So the path of least resistance, especially when you're going through your Saturn return, is probably the best thing to do, because always better people are going to be placed into your life. I know it's difficult, and I know the grief is always going to be there. You got to go through the whole stages of grief and process it. But that's the thing. You guys will eventually master this area in your life. Saturn is eventually going to reward you guys. So I'm going to wrap up this video here. I do hope that you guys did enjoy my video on Saturn in the 7th house. If you did, please do like, share, and subscribe. And I hope you all have a beautiful rest of the day.